I'll never forget the sound of my mother's voice that November evening. Sharp, incredulous, cutting through the warm glow of our family dinner like a blade through silk. "You're throwing away everything we've worked for, Sarah. Everything." My father set down his fork with the deliberate precision he used when he was trying not to lose his temper. The prime rib on his plate grew cold as he stared at me across our mahogany dining table. The same table where I'd done homework for 12 years. Where we'd celebrated my acceptance to Northwestern with champagne just 2 years earlier. "Let me understand this correctly," he said. His lawyer's voice emerging in that measured tone I knew meant trouble. "You want to drop out of college, Northwestern, with a full academic scholarship, to start some kind of internet business?" The way he said internet business made it sound like I'd announced my intention to join a traveling circus. My younger brother Marcus shifted uncomfortably beside me, probably grateful that for once the parental spotlight wasn't on his mediocre grades. "It's not just some kind of business, Dad. I've been working on this platform for 8 months. We're connecting small businesses with freelance marketing professionals in real time. The beta version already has over 3,000 active users, and we've generated $12,000 in revenue this quarter alone." My mother laughed. Not the warm, supportive laugh I'd grown up with, but something bitter and disbelieving. $12,000? Sarah, you're talking about walking away from a degree that will guarantee you a 6-figure starting salary. Your father and I didn't sacrifice everything so you could play entrepreneur with your little computer games. That stung. My little computer games had kept me up until 3 a.m. every night for months. While my roommates were out partying or sleeping, I was coding, testing, reaching out to potential users, learning everything I could about business development and user experience. I'd taught myself Python, JavaScript, and SQL. I'd read every business book I could get my hands on. I'd connected with mentors through LinkedIn and attended virtual conferences during my lunch breaks. But they couldn't see any of that. All they saw was their daughter making what looked like the most irresponsible decision of her life. "This isn't about playing anything," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I've done the math, the market research, the competitive analysis. This platform could revolutionize how small businesses approach digital marketing. We're not just talking about $12,000. We're talking about scaling to millions." My father leaned back in his chair, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Disappointment so profound it made my chest ache. "Sarah, I've seen dozens of young people come through my firm with grand ideas and no practical sense. Dreams don't pay bills. Dreams don't provide security. Dreams don't give you health insurance or a retirement plan. But Dad, you started your own practice when you were 28. You took a risk. I took a calculated risk after establishing myself, after gaining experience, after having something to fall back on." He interrupted. "I didn't throw away my education for a pipe dream." The words pipe dream hit me like a physical blow. This was the man who'd taught me to believe in myself, who'd cheered at every soccer game and science fair, who told me I could do anything I set my mind to. Now he was looking at me like I'd lost my senses. My mother reached across the table and grasped my hand, her wedding ring cool against my skin. "Sweetheart, we're not trying to crush your dreams. We're trying to protect you from making a mistake you'll regret for the rest of your life. Finish your degree. If you still want to pursue this business idea afterward, you'll have something to fall back on." But they didn't understand. There wouldn't be an afterward. The opportunity was now. My co-founder Jake and I had identified a gap in the market that was closing rapidly as bigger companies started to take notice. We had momentum, early adopters, and the attention of potential investors. Waiting 2 more years meant watching someone else build the company we'd envisioned. "I can't wait," I said quietly. "This is my moment. I can feel it." The silence that followed stretched across the table like a chasm. Finally, my father spoke, his voice colder than I'd ever heard it. "Then you're making this choice without our support, financial or otherwise. If you drop out, don't expect us to bail you out when this fantasy falls apart." My mother's eyes filled with tears. "How can you say that to our daughter?" "Because sometimes love means letting people learn from their own mistakes," he replied, never breaking eye contact with me. "Sarah, I hope I'm wrong. I genuinely do. But if you're determined to throw away your future, you'll do it without using our money as a safety net." That night, I sat in my dorm room staring at the withdrawal forms I'd printed earlier that week. My roommate was at a sorority mixer, and the silence felt overwhelming. I thought about the scholarship I'd be giving up, the degree I'd never complete, the safety and approval I'd be walking away from. But then I opened my laptop and looked at the user engagement metrics from our platform. Small business owners from across the country were finding talented freelancers through our system. Marketing professionals were building client bases and earning consistent income. We were creating something real, something valuable. I signed the forms with hands that barely trembled. 2 days later, I was no longer a college student. I was an entrepreneur with no degree, no family support, and nothing but absolute conviction that I was making the right choice. My parents called me a disgrace. They had no idea they were talking to the future founder of a company that would transform how small businesses approach digital marketing forever. Living in Jake's garage wasn't exactly the glamorous startup experience I'd imagined. The space smelled perpetually of motor oil and sawdust, and during Chicago winters, my breath came out in visible puffs while I coded. But rent was free, the Wi-Fi was decent, and most importantly, it was ours. The first few months after dropping out were a blur of ramen noodles, rejection emails, and 18-hour workdays. My parents had made good on their threat. No financial support, no encouragement, not even returned phone calls. My mother's voice on the voicemail was always polite but distant when she did respond, asking about my situation, as if my business were a temporary affliction I'd eventually recover from. "Sarah, just focus on the users," Jake would remind me during our daily morning coffee ritual, which consisted of whatever was cheapest at the gas station down the street. Every other metric follows from user satisfaction. He was right, but it was hard to focus on user satisfaction when I was watching our bank account dwindle toward zero. We'd bootstrapped everything with the money we'd saved from part-time jobs and the small revenue we'd generated during beta. By March, we had $800 left and a choice: give up or find investment. I spent weeks crafting the perfect pitch deck, researching every angel investor and venture capital firm in the Midwest. The rejections came swift and often brutal. Too early stage, unproven market, inexperienced team. The worst part was the subtle condescension. Investors who smiled politely while clearly thinking we were just another pair of naive kids with an app idea. But then I met Elena Rodriguez. She was running a series of workshops for minority and women entrepreneurs at a co-working space downtown. I'd scraped together the registration fee, more desperate for guidance than networking opportunities. Elena was a force of nature, a Latina woman who'd built and sold 2 successful tech companies before turning to angel investing. When I approached her after her talk, she actually listened. "Walk me through your user acquisition strategy," she said, pulling out her phone to look at our platform in real time. For the next hour, I showed her everything: our user interface, our matching algorithm, the feedback we'd received from both businesses and freelancers. I explained how we were solving the trust problem in freelance marketplaces through verified portfolios and escrow payments. I walked her through our revenue model and growth projections. "This is solid work," she said finally. "How old are you?" 20. Her eyebrows rose slightly. "And your technical background?" "Self-taught. I started coding when I was 16, but I've been learning business development and user experience design over the past year." And what does your family think about all this?" The question caught me off guard. I'd gotten used to discussing market size and competitive advantages, not family dynamics. "They don't support it. They wanted me to stay in college." Elena nodded thoughtfully. "I dropped out of Stanford to start my first company. My parents didn't speak to me for 2 years. Sometimes believing in yourself means being the only one who believes in yourself, at least at first." 3 weeks later, Elena wrote us a check for $50,000. The investment changed everything, not just because of the money, though that certainly helped us move out of the garage and into actual office space. Elena became our advisor, connecting us with other entrepreneurs, introducing us to potential clients, and teaching us how to think like business owners instead of just product builders. "You're not selling software," she told us during one of our weekly mentorship sessions. "You're selling outcomes. Small business owners don't want a platform. They want more customers and higher revenue. Freelancers don't want gigs. They want careers and financial stability. Focus on delivering those outcomes, and the platform becomes indispensable." By summer, we had 15,000 active users, and were generating $8,000 in monthly revenue. We hired our first employee, a brilliant UX designer named Maya, who helped us streamline the user onboarding process. Our customer retention rates were above industry average, and we were getting featured in small business publications. but success felt hollow without anyone to share it with. I tried calling my parents a few times, thinking they might want to hear about our progress. The conversations were always stilted and brief. My mother would ask if I was still doing that computer thing, and my father would mention articles he'd read about startup failures and market downturns. When you're ready to go back to school, Northwestern says your scholarship could be reinstated if you reapply within 2 years, my mother informed me during one particularly painful call. I wanted to tell her about the partnership deal we'd just signed with a major business development organization, about the investor interest we were starting to receive, about the thank you emails from small business owners whose revenue had increased by 30% after joining our platform. Instead, I just said I was fine and hung up. The loneliness was the hardest part of building the company. Entrepreneurship is isolating under the best circumstances, but doing it without family support felt like performing without an audience. Every milestone felt simultaneously thrilling and hollow. I celebrated our first $100,000 revenue month with Jake and Maya at a dive bar near our office, but all I could think about was how proud my parents would be if they knew. By December, exactly 1 year after I'd dropped out, we were generating $40,000 in monthly revenue and had grown to 12 employees. Elena was talking to us about Series A funding rounds and expansion opportunities. Industry publications were writing about us as one of the startups to watch in the B2B marketplace space. I was 21 years old, running a growing company, and I'd never been more confident that I'd made the right choice. But I'd also never missed my family more. That Christmas, I drove past our old house 3 times before finally pulling into the driveway. Through the window, I could see my family gathered around the dinner table, probably discussing Marcus's college plans or my father's latest cases. For a moment, I imagined walking in and sharing stories about our company culture and customer success metrics, about the freelancers who told us our platform had changed their careers, about the small business owners who doubled their customer base through marketing campaigns they'd launched through our system. Instead, I sat in my car until the windows fogged up, then drove back to my apartment. Building a company from nothing had taught me that success isn't just about revenue or user growth. It's about proving to yourself that your instincts were right, that your vision was worth fighting for, that taking the difficult path can lead to extraordinary outcomes. But I was starting to realize that individual success, no matter how significant, feels incomplete when the people you love most can't see its value. I had no idea that everything was about to change. The notification came through on a Tuesday morning in April, exactly 18 months after I'd dropped out of college. I was reviewing our Series A pitch materials when Jake burst into my office, laptop in hand, practically vibrating with excitement. "Sarah, you need to see this. Forbes just published their 30 under 30 list for technology entrepreneurs." I glanced at the screen, expecting to see the usual roster of Silicon Valley wonder kids with their Stanford degrees and family connections. Instead, I found myself staring at my own headshot, positioned prominently in the top row. Sarah Martinez, 21, co-founder and CEO of Connect Market, the B2B platform that's revolutionizing how small businesses access marketing expertise. Since launching 18 months ago, Connect Market has facilitated over $50 million in business transactions and grown to serve clients in all 50 states. Martinez, who left Northwestern University to pursue her entrepreneurial vision, represents a new generation of founders who are building meaningful companies outside traditional educational pathways. I read the paragraph 3 times, my heart hammering against my ribs. 50 million in facilitated transactions. When had we crossed that milestone? Maya appeared in my doorway, grinning. "The analytics team just confirmed it," she said. "We hit 50 million in total platform transactions last week. The Forbes piece was perfectly timed. Within hours, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Interview requests from podcasts and business publications, LinkedIn messages from other entrepreneurs, connection requests from investors and potential partners. But the message that made my hands shake came from an unexpected source, my high school business teacher, Mrs. Chen. "Sarah, I just saw the Forbes article. I always knew you had something special, but this is extraordinary. I'm so proud of what you've built. I hope you know that not everyone thought your decision was wrong." That afternoon, while fielding calls from reporters and investors, I made a decision that terrified me more than dropping out of college or pitching to my first investor. I called my mother. "Hello?" Her voice was cautious, probably wondering why I was calling in the middle of a Tuesday. "Mom, it's me. There's something I wanted to share with you." "Oh, hi, sweetheart. Is everything all right?" I took a deep breath. "I was featured in Forbes today, as one of their top entrepreneurs under 30. The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. Forbes? The magazine? Yes. They wrote about Connect Market, the company I've been building. We've facilitated $50 million in business transactions. We have 35 employees now and offices in 3 cities. Another long pause, then quietly, $50 million? Yes. Small businesses use our platform to find marketing professionals, and we take a small percentage of each transaction. We're profitable, growing fast, and we just closed a $12 million Series A funding round. Sarah, I had no idea it was so substantial. You never told us? You never asked, I said gently. Every time we talked, you asked when I was going back to school. I heard her take a shaky breath. Would you send me the article? That evening, I forwarded her the Forbes piece along with a few other recent articles about our company. I also sent a detailed email explaining what Connect Market did, how we'd grown, and what our future plans looked like. For the first time in almost 2 years, I opened up about the challenges and triumphs of building a company, about the freelancers who'd built successful careers through our platform, about the small businesses that had doubled their revenue after connecting with the right marketing professionals. The next morning, my phone rang at 7 a.m. Sarah? My father's voice, but different. Softer somehow, uncertain in a way I'd never heard before. Hi, Dad. I read the Forbes article. I also looked up your company's website and read some of the customer testimonials. He paused, and I could hear him struggling with something. I owe you an apology. The words I'd dreamed of hearing for months felt surreal coming through my phone speaker. When you dropped out, all I could see was the risk, he continued. I couldn't see the opportunity because I was too focused on protecting you from failure. But you weren't just chasing a dream. You were building something real and valuable. Something that's helping thousands of people build better businesses and careers. Dad, let me finish. I was wrong. Not just about your business prospects, but about how I handled the whole situation. I should have tried to understand what you were working on instead of dismissing it. I should have supported you even if I had concerns. You're my daughter, and I'm proud of what you've accomplished. More proud than I know how to express. I sat in my office chair, tears streaming down my face as employees walked past my glass-walled office, probably wondering why their CEO was crying at 7 a.m. Would you like to see the office sometime? I managed to ask. Meet the team? See what we've built? I would love that. Your mother and I both would. Marcus, too. He's been following your company on social media for months, by the way. He's been showing us things you've posted, trying to explain what you do. 2 weeks later, my entire family stood in our downtown Chicago office, looking around with expressions of amazement and pride that made all the 18-hour days and ramen dinners worth it. My mother spent an hour talking to Maya about user experience design, asking thoughtful questions about how we'd optimized our onboarding process. My father was fascinated by our legal compliance systems and risk management protocols. Marcus, now a sophomore at Northwestern studying computer science, peppered Jake with questions about our technical architecture and growth hacking strategies. This is incredible, Sarah, my mother said as we stood in our main workspace, watching our team collaborate on product development and customer success initiatives. You built all of this? We built it, I corrected, gesturing toward Jake and our employees. But yes, this is what I saw when I was sitting in that dorm room filling out withdrawal forms. My father put his arm around my shoulders, something he hadn't done since before I'd dropped out. I spent my whole career advising people to minimize risk and make conservative choices, but sometimes the biggest risk is not taking any risks at all. You understood something I didn't, that the window for opportunities like this doesn't stay open forever. That evening, we had dinner together as a family for the first time in almost 2 years. Not at our formal dining room table, but at a bustling restaurant downtown, celebrating not just my success, but our reunion. My parents asked detailed questions about our business model, our expansion plans, our company culture. They wanted to understand not just what I'd built, but how and why I'd built it. What's next? My father asked as we shared dessert. We're expanding internationally, I said, starting with Canada and the UK, then moving into other English-speaking markets. We're also developing new features to help businesses build long-term relationships with freelancers, not just one-off projects. And personally, my mother asked, are you happy? Are you taking care of yourself? It was such a motherly question that I almost started crying again. I'm happy. Really happy. This is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. 6 months later, Connect Market was valued at $200 million following our Series B funding round. The company I'd built from a garage had become one of the fastest-growing B2B platforms in the country, with over 200 employees and offices in 5 cities. But the achievement that meant the most to me wasn't the valuation or the media coverage or the industry recognition. It was the framed photo on my desk, my family visiting our office, all of us smiling, proud of what we'd accomplished together. They'd called me a disgrace for dropping out of college. Now they call me their daughter, the entrepreneur, and the young woman who trusted her instincts even when everyone else thought she was making the biggest mistake of her life. Sometimes the people who love you most are the last ones to see your potential. Sometimes proving them wrong is the greatest gift you can give them, and yourself. The best part? This is just the beginning.